G'day guys.
G'day.
How we doing?
Very well.
We're at the Aureus Financial Podcast number 5.
We're getting there.
It's very exciting. And we're here with Chris McHardy of Storydriven. How you doing, mate?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, guys. This is great.
Thank you.
Good to have you on the show. It's we've known each other for about 12 months now.
Be about that, yeah. When we first met out in the beautiful sunny shores of Lombok.
The sunny shores of Lombok. Lombok was an interesting place, wasn't it, mate? I can't say that I've ever been to a place like Lombok before. It was Chris and I were at a retreat for the Game Changers. It was a business coaching group that we were part of for 12 months there. And every quarter we went away on a retreat, and we went to the wild Lombok.
Yeah, I never left the resort. I just stayed in the resort.
Mate, it was a dangerous place outside of the resort. When you know that you're going into a resort and they're checking the underside of your car for bombs, you know that it's a nasty place outside of the resort.
That's it.
So I remember our experience. Did you come in at daytime or nighttime?
I was daytime actually, so it's lovely during the day. So it'll be a little bit scary for you.
Terrifying. I come into the airport at 9 o'clock at night and got mobbed by all of these blokes trying to grab my bag and drag me into a car. And then when I finally found a taxi driver that seemed somewhat legitimate, I have never been so terrified in my life.
Of the taxi driver?
The journey.
The journey. It's a fair way from the airport.
It was a long way.
Once you're there, it's absolutely beautiful.
It was a beautiful place. There's no street lights. There are motorcyclists travelling around blind corners on the wrong side of the road. There's no pavement. There's no road as such. It's all dirt. It was interesting. So, mate, we've come a long way from Lombok. It's been interesting kind of observing your business journey so far in the last 12 months. So do you want to give everyone a bit of a crash course on what you do?
Yeah, so my background's in video production. So I've been a cinematographer for about 10 to 12 years now. And one of the creative directors that I was working with, Dennis, who I love working with, he and I did some great corporate productions together, was leaving the production company that he was working for. And he said to me, look, do you want to start something? Do you want to create something? And I've been running my own production company for a while, but was looking for something that was a bit different, something where, you can actually go on the journey with your clients rather than just rock up, do a good job, meet some nice people, but then you don't see them again. And so he and I came together and created Storydriven. And what we do is we create, well, as the name suggests, stories for businesses with a real agenda of making sure that the messaging that we create is the authentic you. It's like your business or what it is that the business, the product or service that you guys are promoting at this point in time. What it is, why have you created it, and how can we get the right people to it so that you're building the business and expanding in the way that you want it and that you see fit.
It's really exciting, mate. I think that we know ourselves, like we're recording and filming a podcast as we speak, that content is so important these days in a business. Sam and I were having a conversation the other day that we spoke about on our last podcast. Was it the High Smile? Is that the business, High Smile?
High Smile, yeah. So they're a couple of young Australian guys, and they've essentially built this teeth whitening business. And they've got like mega celebrities on there, so the Kendall Jenner and Kylie Jenner,
Conor
McGregor, and it's essentially exploded. It's got them onto the rich list, and it's essentially the whole business. They're selling whitening, but it's all built on the back of their social media
and content. So content's just so powerful. Like looking on Kylie Jenner's Instagram, it's not something we look at often. But she makes one post. She got 100 million followers.
That's it. She makes marketing.
One post that generates her millions and millions of dollars in revenue. So, mate, like you're on the coalface. Like you're kind of the mastermind behind creating some of these amazing brand stories. And we'll talk about some of the brands that you've worked with in the past shortly. But what do you think is critical to good quality content? What's the X factor?
I think the X factor is it's not having too many messages within that piece. It's knowing why you're creating it and how it's going to have an impact on your business. So for us, we've been working across quite a lot of different areas in business, whether it's social media content or business to business tools, so that brands can actually get their product or service out to who they want to connect with. It's the X factor. It's this sense of truth that comes out of it, this sense of empowerment, I guess, is how you put it. It's, you know, when you watch a great piece of content, it calls you to action. You actually know what to do next, and you believe in the brand or what it is that's communicating. But at the same time, it could just be a piece of entertainment. But within that, brands use entertainment to build their awareness so that you know what they're about. And so it's when you've got all these different types of content that come together, that's when the story is told. And we like to connect with brands that speak to us, that mean something to us. So they're the brands that we want to hear more from. And when you're a younger business and you want to get that message out, content's the perfect way to do that.
It sounds like a very intimate way of marketing a business. How well do you get to know your clients and your client's business and what they're doing before you can actually put a video together?
You're absolutely right, Sam. It's quite an in-depth process, and that's where it can be quite challenging, where when you're providing a service, that balance of how much time you can afford to put into the process as well as what can your client afford to give back. When you find this beautiful synergy where the clients, like, they know exactly why they're creating the piece, or even when maybe they don't, they know they need to communicate something. We've determined that video is going to be a powerful medium to do that, and so when those conversations align and you can actually have these chats about, so that's what you're doing, and you know, that's the technology, and that's really, really cool. Like, that's what we find really exciting, is when you're having these conversations and you're hearing about these products and services and they excite you, because then you're like, well, how can I then tell that story? And it empowers us to then create the best piece of content for you.
Cool.
And one of the things that I've kind of observed, that you've really mastered the art of telling a story authentically. One of the best pieces of video content I've ever seen was the Zambrero campaign that you guys did. That was fantastic. It was one of those things that you watch and like your like hair stands on end. You kind of get butterflies when you watch it. And you guys put a lot of work into that. And I think that for a lot of people who are producing content, they kind of overlook the amount of pre-planning that has to go into telling an authentic and well thought out story. Like, storytelling's an art, right?
Yeah.
So talk to us about that. Like, if you want, like, the Zambrero campaign in particular, like what do you think was the kind of key to the success of that campaign? Why it had such a profound effect?
Yeah, the Zambrero piece was amazing because we'd learnt about their mission, and we were amazed that people didn't know about it. So when someone mentions the word Zambrero, being Sydney based, I was aware of it, but to me, they were just another Mexican fast food chain. But once I delved in further and actually discovered, no, there's actually a history behind there. The reason that brand exists is to end world hunger. And that's a huge statement. To have a fast food chain that could actually do that. And when we learned more about Sam Prince and why he created the brand, we were like, people have to know about this, because if you had a Mad Max, a Guzman Gomez, and Zambrero all next to each other, if you didn't know the stories, maybe maybe there's a taste preference, maybe just, you know, you'd been to one and you're like, well, just like, say, McDonald's, you know what you're going to get, so you just keep going, kind of thing. But now I'll only go to Zambrero. The food is fresh, the food is healthy, it's great, and that's part of their mission as well. But the core of it is, every time you buy a burrito or a bowl, a meal pack is donated to someone in need. So our documentary journey took us to the Philippines, where we actually got to see the impact that this business here in Australia and internationally is having on these people in the Philippines and Vietnam, and also the Aboriginal community here in Australia. And so we went on that journey. It helped that Dennis spoke the native dialect of the places we went to, and we could have these really intimate conversations. And that's when you have that capacity to be able to talk to people in that way and hear about their stories, hear about their triumphs and their losses. That's what you then you use to build the story. And then added in the interviews we did with the CEO, Karim, with Sam himself, and yeah, it's a powerful piece. A lot of time and energy went into it because we had to discover, okay, who were the people behind the story, their charity partner, Rising Against Hunger, and so we had to, we spent the time. Now, so that's a larger documentary project. We'd all love to be able to do these things, but we recognise that time is a big factor, and so it's about how you can take the best elements from that process and bring it into a smaller scale, which is then going to be able to be replicated by businesses within Australia, and how can we then bring those same energies and emotions to your business effectively.
And it's interesting, mate. I think that it's all about purpose, really, isn't it? Like, I think Zembro has a really deep purpose of their kind of social enterprise and about being able to create change in the world through I guess, their substantial business that they've built. And I think that a lot of businesses try to act on purpose. They try to align themselves with a purpose, but sometimes fall short in how they articulate that purpose to the people on the other side of the table, their customers, their stakeholders, all the people that are involved in their business. And they kind of overlook that their business may not just be a vehicle that's there to churn money and put dollars into their bank account. So I guess from your experience, mate, I guess through your work in that creative direction of really trying to get them to craft and hone that purpose and their value proposition as such for them to articulate that on camera, what's one of the processes that you go through to help them kind of uncover that?
Yeah, it's a great question, Jackson. It's the challenge is often you got to look back at why the video was commissioned. And a brand, a business may have a particular objective. They need to make more sales in this area, or they're just releasing this product. So the purpose behind the organization is only just part of the process, or depending again on the audience of that piece, it may not feature at all. And one of the biggest challenges that we've had in business in growing is everyone loves this idea of story, but they often either don't have the money to execute the project, like what we did with Zambrero, or they, because of the particular person you're working with, their objective is on a much smaller scale. So what we do is we see how we can bring in elements of purpose and create a sense of what the brand stands for within a piece of content, even if it's something smaller. And we've had this opportunity with Canon, which has been really great. So the content that we've done with Canon has been around the experience that brand gives and has with very high-end photographers. Okay. So we did a piece where we went to the Sydney Cricket Ground, to the AFL, okay. and it was amazing. We were following Phil, who's a News Limited photographer. He's been filming sports since he was 14. He's been playing AFL, and he just loves it. He's just, the emotion, he just gets into what's happening, and his role, his job is to capture that perfect image. And Canon stands for technology, equipment, personnel, and the image of how can we empower you as the photographer to capture that image. And so it was a short social documentary, if you will, following Phil on a day at the cricket ground, in terms of going, okay, this is how his life works. And we hear these stories about how when he was shooting the cricket, he burnt his finger on the shutter of the camera because it got so hot because he was shooting so fast. But the technology is built for it. It can survive a 40-degree heat. And one of the comments I loved from him was, because and that's the thing, like different sports have different energy drives. So we were doing the AFL with this piece, and so it was all about the energy and the impact. He was telling us, he was reminiscing about when he was on the cricket, and he was on a very, very long telephoto lens, and he's like, it's like you're staring into the inner thoughts of the fieldsman out there. Yeah. And it's about, capturing those moments. Yeah. And so the reason we did that piece of content was actually to promote Canon Professional Services, which is part of the organization. So if you're a professional photographer, this is part of Canon's offering, that they look after you. If your gear gets damaged, if you ever have a problem out in the field, they will get you a replacement kit so that you can continue working as a professional. That was the sale. That was the sort of one of the business objectives. The other objective with it was showcasing their flagship camera, so that they could then show this piece of content to retailers, promoting why you should consider, amongst its rivals, why you should promote their product to a customer if they want to do professional sports photography, or if they're an avid sports photographer. So it had these multiple layers. And what was great was, and then it comes back to this idea of, well, generally these sorts of pieces you want to be quite short and succinct. It's for salespeople, they're busy, they just want to know, okay, well, why should I promote this product over another? And that's where Canon comes in on its own, because it's about what it creates. It's about the people. It's not about, it does this frame rate or this megapixel rating. So the content brings these messaging together, and it was originally meant to be a 1 minute piece, but it actually became 3 minutes, because we just went on this story with Phil. Like, you felt like you're with him, you're there, and that's where you can watch a piece of content and actually go, I've learned something about someone who has been empowered by a brand in what they do. And so now if I'm considering to buy a camera, I'm going to see Canon everywhere I go. And so that was a great journey, a great experience to be a part of that process. But it just organically evolved. Now, that was very much on the fly. And I think that shows our skill sets in coming from a filmmaking, documentary, feature films, music video, all that sort of background, is that the way that we approach corporate and the way that we approach business and life is about how do we create these experiences. And so that was a great way to work with such a high well-regarded brands such as Canon.
Which is amazing, mate. I think that people tend to take the whole experience for granted. I think that there's the trap that a lot of businesses have fallen into is they're constantly trying to sell something. They're hard selling, putting their features and benefits out there in order to showcase themselves to their customers. But what they overlook is the experience. It's that kind of, we've spoken about it a number of times, the why. And there's an unlimited amount of products out there, but it's about being top of mind and relevant in the minds of the right consumers at the right time when it comes for them to make a brand decision around who they're going to choose. It's like why Apple users, that's Sam's an Apple user, I'll be against him. I boycotted that, and you are too, mate. Oh gosh, I boycotted years ago. But people have a natural affinity for the brand. They're invested in it because it's been able to sell this story, or more so articulate the story. I should sell is probably a bad word. That you're invested in it.
But that little Freudian slip was actually quite pertinent, because in the sense that they're articulating that story. At the end of the day, the purpose is to sell the product. And it's about selling that product to the people that they want as customers and that want to go on that journey as well. And that point about experience is so true. And when you're in a service-based industry and people look at, the last few lines on the document which says what it is I get and how much it costs, how can you put on a piece of paper the experience? And that's where we aim to create the best experiences possible on these productions, because it's more than just the video at the end of the day that's then going to go on to social and be shared. Like that example with Canon with the sales reps. It's about the experience all the way through. And sort of segueing from that was how we landed a great job recently with Telstra, where we're able to create some content with them to showcase their technology products in the health space. So Telstra have the Telstra Smart Home product, and I'm sure lots of people are aware of it, how it all works. You connect motion sensors and video cameras to your phone, you can turn appliances on and off. It's heading towards this idea of the smart home, that you don't have to go to a PowerPoint to turn things on and off kind of thing. But where we were able to drive great value for Telstra was through their health department in showcasing how these products have applications for the aged, disability and community care sectors. And when you can see someone with, say, with MS, we've met this lovely man, Jason, who lives in Melbourne, who's had MS for a long time now and has lost the ability to be able to switch on the light because he doesn't have the dexterity in his hands. For him to be able to now say, okay, Google, turn on the lights, or okay, Google, turn on my air conditioning.
It's life-changing.
It's life-changing. And MS is a degenerative condition where once you lose the ability to do something, you're not getting it back. Where this technology has enabled him to get something back and to make his life just a little bit easier. And to be able to go on that journey with him was so fulfilling. When you step back from that, you go, okay, we're creating a piece of content to help a technology innovation company, which is what Telstra is. It's where they're positioning themselves to help them take a product to, say, aged care facilities, hospitals, yes, to make money, but it's about how it can actually provide the clients, the patients with better care. Mm-hmm. And for us to be a part of that journey and to be able to connect with people was truly amazing.
Wow. It's adding a huge amount of value to society, something like that. So obviously there's a business behind it, but that's still society benefits greatly from, initiatives like that.
And yeah, this is something you've always said, Sam, that our job as entrepreneurs is to add more value to society than we take in return. And like you said, a lot of the most popular entrepreneurs at the moment, like Gary Vaynerchuk, they always talk about giving more than you get. You give, and then you get. And it seems a lot that what you've been doing under the whole story-driven journey has really been about giving a lot of fulfillment and helping people fulfill others, which is profound. I don't think there's many people out there that can, hand on heart, say that they can work in such a way where it has such a profound effect on the audience of what they're delivering, which is pretty cool, mate.
No, thank you. Yeah, and that was you were able to capture in that moment what it was that the vision that Dennis had in creating this company. When you first start a business, you're scrambling. You're just trying to get clients. You're trying to find your feet. You're trying to find out, well, you've got this vision, but how are you going to execute on it? And how are you actually going to bring this innovative change or in ways of execution? And it's been tough. It's you're constantly trying to find more revenue to pay the bills, to keep going, and you're constantly reminding yourself of these sorts of projects and gaining more of them. And we didn't just walk into a job with Telstra or a job with.
Sure, there's a big vetting process involved, right?
Yeah, it's about the relationships that you build with people, and it's about when you're talking to someone and they're commissioning some work. It's about you standing above the rest and about competing on everything but price.
Yeah.
There are times when you do just compete on price, and that's it's a losing battle, because in this economy with technology where it's at, it's so easy to go out there and shoot something.
Yeah.
That it's made it incredibly hard to create video content when the people that you're speaking to are just focused on price.
And they can't see the value.
Yeah,
right?
but I understand from their perspective, that if they're a business unit or if they're a small business, then they are the business. Money's tight, and you want to know you're going to get a return on investment. And compared to other mediums, video is quite expensive, but it also is part of the reason why it's one of the best mediums in terms of that communication element. So it's about how well you can leverage the resources both within your own business in terms of your staff, and then when you're working with video suppliers, how can you all together get the best possible outcome?
Sure.
So I would be on that end of this spectrum, you know what I mean? Financial services, I don't really understand a lot about the creative side of things. So let's say Sam Panetta from Aureus Financial comes up to you, Chris, and goes, "Look, I want a really cool video for my business. That's about all I know." How do you? Well, first of all, what sort of process does the client go through from there? And then how do you articulate the amount of value that you actually are adding through these videos?
Well, it's interesting, Sam. There's two ways I can answer that question. And having done work in the financial services sector, it's been interesting in the sense of constantly experimenting and constantly trying to find, okay, well, this is what people have been doing. So if you look on YouTube and you're looking at different financial planning businesses, so if you're in a position you want to get some financial services, but you're so used to Facebook and YouTube and whatnot, and you want to learn a bit more about these organizations, you look for video content, because a lot of the websites are very similar. There's similar sorts of words that are used and described, and maybe that's what you're looking for. It depends on your demographic and where you are in your life. But if you're the sort of person that's like, I actually want to know a bit more about the people, they are large financial commitments and investments in yourself, in your family, in your business, that you want to know that that it's a good fit. And so you look across the last 3 to 5 years, various financial planning companies have put video content together. They generally have between 100 to 300 views on YouTube. They don't get the largest number, and it's understandable because it's fairly dry content, and it is very similar as you look across. So when I started doing a bit of work exploring what solutions are possible for financial planners, I was really delving into the why behind. Why is that planner? Why are they doing that line of work? What is their goal? Like, what gives them the best satisfaction? Tell us a story of how you've helped someone, and what have you done, and how have you enabled them, and how were they able to integrate what you were able to provide to their lives? And they're hard to find, those stories, because a lot of financial planners they just don't think that way.
It's very process driven.
Yeah.
They're providing transactional outcomes, really.
Yeah. And a big part of that it comes from the history of it being so product based. And then there was a lot of issues of trust, because people started to become a bit more savvy about, so maybe I got that product because you guys got a good commission on it, but is it really the best product for me? Or, and it can happen, people just don't know that, they're not aware of it, and so they suddenly can run into trouble. Admittedly, some clients just want to invest too heavily. They just go, make me money, make it for me now. And the financial planner might be like, well, we should really try this or try that. And the client's going, no, I want this. And so, then things turn bad when investments don't go to plan, but that's because they wanted something that was going to make them X return and whatnot. And it's challenging. And I think where it needs to come back to is an element of story, that element of, you're helping another individual, how can you enable them, and what is the meaning of money to them? And so that's where I recognized it's about more than just a piece of content. It's one thing to meet a financial planner, they go, we want video, we go, okay, here's an idea, money's exchanged, a video is created. But I actually want them to attract more of the right people to that. I want them to succeed. But beyond that, I want the people who see that video and go, okay, I like this person, go and have a chat with them. I want the advice that's provided to them to help that person go on that journey. So it's that desire and drive to go above and beyond just a piece of video content, and to know that that organization's going to do that. It's about really understanding the person and going on that journey.
That really resonates with me. I think it does with you too, and it's the whole reason we've got in business together. You're talking about why someone in finance, right? Guarantee a large percentage of them are in it because their parents told them to do it, went to uni or a certain school, and they want to make heaps of cash, so they got into finance, right? I'm thinking as you're talking there, why am I in finance? And I'm having flashbacks from when I was a kid, and I'm thinking, watching my parents struggling and thinking, just naturally growing up, have this affinity for money and always done well, and thinking, how can I help other people do well? And, how can I teach what I've learned so other people don't struggle? And there's this real deep emotional attachment. that I probably didn't even connect the dots until you started talking about it. You know, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? It's
interesting. I think that all of this is about being congruent to your values.
Yeah.
And I think back to a previous point that you made, mate, that as small business owners, we're constantly torn between putting dollars in the bank account, keeping the doors open, putting food on the table, keeping the missus happy, and following our purpose and the things that really give us fulfillment. Because I guess the vetting process, like if all things were considered, if money wasn't a factor, let's assume that you were just doing this as a passion project and everything was taken care of, I'm sure that you would have a certain vetting process of the types of jobs that you did, because you could see the vision of the end outcome and you want to work with the right people that allows you to facilitate the process of them showing themselves in the best possible light. But ultimately, we've got this filter in life where there's the money factor, right? And we're constantly trying to have the to and fro between, well, how can we have a commercial business that is successful and profitable and still deliver the best possible quality at all times? And I think that, back on your previous point, like there's people out there that just haven't thought about it that way. Their business is really just a means for them to make money. It's a cash producing machine. So when it comes to illustrating your why and your value proposition, well, there isn't really one. I'm sure you probably encountered that through various projects.
Yeah, we have, and it stems to that point on, sometimes it's not about the story, it's about not just selling this product or informing customers about this element kind of thing. But the point you also raised, that's very true, is these stories that talk about these amazing journeys with these brands. It's all the elements in between, and it's that whole essence of, whenever you listen to great entrepreneurs speak, you hear the success stories, but it's where things don't work out. That's where you ultimately learn. There's a lot of times you'll do work where with the best intentions, you always want to do the best possible product, but you said yes when you deep down knew you shouldn't have, but yeah, you're right, you had to put food on the table. So you got to take on board these clients that aren't ideal, and it's about what can you learn. And I think the point you raised on businesses who have these, quote unquote, these cash machines, where it's challenging for them is they've got that history, and if that is success to them, that's great. And if they then want to expand on that, that's when then you can sometimes come to loggerheads with the whole, well, tell us about why you started the business, because deep down it's just about money kind of thing. I think the big reason that Dennis and I have the sort of ideologies that we have, it stems from our values growing up, but it's also from that element of in the areas that we weren't satisfied in the work that we were doing before. And for us, every dollar of revenue has been a fight. It has been a challenge to get, because, if you think about it, we created a video production company, agency, whatever you want to call it, in the last couple of years when there's just so much of it out there. It's a saturated market. It's easy to lose faith when you go, there's so many of these companies. How can I stand out? How can I be different? And it's about how you can align, always constantly remembering those values so that you don't end up finding yourself just making ends meet or running a company that it wasn't why you started. Sure. But yeah, you're right. It's that whole, it's that roller coaster. It's how you can level it out. It's about how you can learn the skills and work out where things just clicked. Like what kinds of clients, what kinds of industries, what kinds of projects actually gave the best balance of satisfaction, return on investment for the client, and was profitable for you as a business. And then you go, well, is that sustainable? Can I keep doing that product? And then you got to look at, well, what was the work involved to get that client or get that work? And that's where for us, it's only really in the last few months we've sort of really been able to reflect and acknowledge that yes, we're going on an entrepreneurial journey, because there are times when you feel like, are we just a new business in the market? What determines a new business versus an entrepreneur? And that's where you gotta delve into the psyche.
Sure.
And it can be fun at times. It can be traumatic at times. But it's the journey. It's constantly remembering. Don't think about the destination. Know where you want to go, absolutely, but know that it's the journey that counts.
I think it's something that's often overlooked, mate. I think that the issue with the whole business community and these big entrepreneurs is that a lot of them touch on, they've spoken about their trials and tribulations, but never at depth. The highlight is their success, and they're leveraging their success as a means of continuing to be successful. And I think that mindset's wrong. I think it's flawed. I think that entrepreneurship is a lonely journey. And I think that as people, we're conditioned to avoid failure. Yeah. That where our parents always tell us, oh, don't do this, or look both ways when you cross the street, or make sure you...
That's probably good advice.
Good advice. don't run with scissors, those things.
Yeah, we checked the road a couple of times before coming back from lunch.
Those things are all fantastic. But one of the things that they tell us, which is probably misguided, is don't fail. Yeah. Always be successful. Always, and with that, as a business owner, it doesn't work. If you're an employee, sure. If you're always failing, you're gonna get fired. Right? But as a business owner, it's about how many times can you fail, fall down, get back up again, and keep moving forwards. And I think it's important that we kind of talk about that. We've all failed as entrepreneurs. Like I've failed countless times. And I know that we'll continue to fail, and there'll continue to be roadblocks on my journey that will ultimately define who I am and how I end up as an entrepreneur. But I think that the other point that you raise is about managing your emotions.
Yeah. There's a constantly recurring thing with every single entrepreneur and business person you speak to. Yeah.
I think that it is a very specific personality type that can endure being an entrepreneur. There's just some people that can't do it.
Yeah.
They can't endure that emotional roller coaster that we go through every single day because it's just too much for them. So, mate, at what point did you know that you were going to be a business owner, that you were going to go out into this big beast of business?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, the crazy thing is I've never been an employee. I've just kind of I had an interest in video cameras from a young age. At high school, I got involved in the sound and lighting crew, so I was a bit of a tech sort of nerd kind of vibe. And when I left school, I went, well, what should I do at uni? And combined this sort of these passions for like sound and video. And I did a media course, and through there met some people that, amazingly, actually, through a university project, met this guy, a writer, John, who he and I had a business together for 9 years. He was best man at my wedding, and he was on a journey as well. And together, he and I chased feature films, music videos, corporate work, documentary, and I was able to make a living out of it. And so that was it was the exchange of time for money. And I did that for about 8-9 years. And it was at that point that when Dennis came to me and said, do you want to do something different? I recognized that what I was doing was making ends meet. I was having fun. It was a journey. I was making sure bills got paid. And I think one of the reasons that I can endure this entrepreneurial business life is because, coming back to what you were saying before, Sam, about growing up, why did you go into financial planning and the struggles that you saw with your parents? I saw elements of that as well, and good aspects, not so great aspects, generally good actually. And that was actually what meant that it was sort of my second career path, personal financial management. And I think elements of that keep coming back, and that's why I gravitate to people in the financial space and the businesses, and I try and combine. Because I've got certain skill sets in that area, and I've got skill sets in video. Where's that element that it can come together? And I trying to thought there, but it's when. I think that's what life's about. You're constantly at these crossroads of different things. And for me, with business now, as the the journey of my family grows, you recognize what you need to do to provide as a father, as a husband, and that's when you suddenly realize, okay, I do need to try and structure my business so that it's more than just getting paid more for my time and a cost to deliver those services, but to grow something. And then from there to actually to hold true to yourself. If you have ideas of a legacy, to hold true to that and to work out the steps that are going to take you there. And that's what, that's where it's just, I think I am one of those people that believes in things happen for a reason at certain times, and it's about taking those leaps of faith, taking those opportunities. And when you can go into entrepreneurship with someone, I think that's a great thing. You guys are in a partnership, Dennis and I are in a partnership. It is a lonely journey, and it's about having each other there to fall on, to yell at occasionally, not too often. But it's what ensures that you're making the best decisions that you know how at the time. And you're absolutely right. There are times that you'll fail. And I think what's going to change is our children are going to go through a life of knowing it's okay to. Because you're right, we all went through this system which was tick the box, do the right thing. Hence, when we were leaving high school, you didn't really say to your parents, I'm going to start my business.
Exactly right.
Like, that just wasn't the thing to do. And nowadays it's a lot more trendy, it's a lot more everyone's doing it, which also means there's more competition, which means that you really got to stand for something. So, I guess that's the thing, if someone were to say, was that element of, if you're at the beginning of the journey and you're not sure if you're going to make it, it's about having that why. Why do you keep doing it? Because there'll be times when you'll go, you know what, maybe I'll just go back to that job I had before. If you have the luxury of that, you may not. So it's about knowing why you're doing it.
Yeah, I think so. I think when times get tough, I think you need to reflect on why you started in the first place. And anyone who's in business or who's thinking about getting into business and who thinks there's not going to be any tough times, is absolutely kidding themselves. Jackson and I this morning, before we came out here, we sat down, we booked it in for a couple of hours just to sit there and go for everything, strategise, not only professionally in the business, but also personally, and how's everything affecting everything else. And it's, I think it is important to stay grounded. I think it's very important.
Yeah, I think the biggest lesson that I learned as an entrepreneur is that you shouldn't get into business just because of the money, because the money only has so much value to yourself as a person, and only has so much motivating force to get you out of bed every morning to go do what you want. You have to be passionate about what you do. You have to really deeply enjoy what you do, or the outcomes that you're able to achieve for your customers or your clients or for your team, or for the world for that matter. And if you don't have that level of motivation, you're never going to do what it takes to be successful. You're always going to do just enough to get by, or you're going to always just fall short to fail. And it was like my first business that I started, and I've spoken about it a lot, I wrote about it in my book, that I started a fashion business, a men's online fashion business. I did it as a means of trying to subsidise my income. And I hated the industry, I hated the people, I hated the process. It was a constant battle for me to try and push it forward. And there was some successes, and we did some great things. But it was just an endless struggle, and I ultimately just had to give it up. And I had to admit defeat and just say, hey, I've learned a lot. I went about this the completely wrong way. And if I'm going to pursue something in the future, it has to be something that I'm passionate about. Because people see, I think the emotional intelligence of the average punter has increased exponentially over the past 10 years. I think through the amount of information that's out there, that people have become very savvy, and they can smell a rat a mile away. Like if you're faking it and you're trying to pretend to be something that you're not, people know. And I think that's probably relevant to what you guys do as well. Like somebody trying to fake it in front of a video. It's not authentic. It's cheesy, and people don't respond well to that type of messaging. If anything, it's detrimental, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So it's interesting. Mate, you touched on a couple of things before. Obviously, your legacy. obviously everything you're doing in your business, and soon it's going to be not just thinking about yourself and your wife, it's hopefully going to be little one running around.
That's it.
So, mate, what's your means to an end? What's this all about?
For me, I've been blessed in that my wife and I, so we got married a couple of years ago, but had been together for 12 years prior. So it took me a long time to ask the question.
Good on you, mate.
But being on the journey with her and seeing where she's taking her career and her life. So she's a doctor, training to become an oncologist, and working in the field of cancer is hard. Yeah, it's heavy, absolutely. It's this balance of rewarding. I don't know how to describe it. It's elements of hope, trying to outsmart the disease, and seeing how hard Jen's worked towards that and through that journey has inspired me to do the same with my work and my business, and work out, well, how can I then, through what I'm doing, help her now? Sure, I can do some video stuff, that's a lot of good, but it's going beyond that. And I think when you have that dream and you push for it and you do more than just make ends meet, I think that's what's attracted us to the technology innovation companies and companies with purpose and drive, because it's through that and that work that I'm going to be able to help her push in the field of oncology even further. And so it's seeing where those crossroads will meet. Because I've always said to people, what we do, like, video and all that's not life or death, but medicine is. And medicine has the ability to transform lives. And it's how can we benefit the people that surround us?
Yeah, it's something that's very close to me, mate. Last year I lost my old man to cancer. He battled with stomach cancer, which ultimately turned into pancreatic cancer over 10 years. And seeing him go through chemo and go through a lot of things, and unfortunately his oncologist was pretty hopeless. Gave him a concoction of drugs that his chemo never killed him. And it's just one of these things. It's this field that it's imperative that we have the right people there that are right there for the right reasons. I remember my dad telling me stories about meeting with his oncologist, and the guy was nearly asleep. Like he just didn't want to be there. He had other things going on, probably work to the bone, probably a bit jaded, given that it's a tough profession. Like it's very bittersweet, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just to know that you're really staring death in the face. Most people who are suffering from cancer, that it's tough to continue to be in that role. So it's an interesting field.
It's you're absolutely right. It's and that's Jen's got this amazing. She's got an amazing bedside manner, and that's what's happening now with the current generation of doctors, like the peers that she's surrounded with. They've gone through their basics physician's training just the last couple of years, and I was known as the BBT widow, in the sense that as a partner of someone in medicine, you're just not going to see your partner. And it's how in your relationship with your partner that you can continue to grow and blossom that relationship when she's going through so much. And seeing the other guys go through that. And it was great that there's some new initiatives coming out now. There's a program called BBT OK, where it's about recognising how can we help doctors get through these challenging times between the patients, the training, the stress, the hours. I mean, it's crazy the hours they work. We're pretty lucky in film to generally get 10-hour turnarounds between jobs. They don't get that in medicine. And that is life or death. So being on that journey with her, seeing those people and being involved in her cohort, it's a very different industry, but they're going through similar emotional processes. And that's where there's this recognition that business really blends into life and the people that you're surrounded by. So it's working out how you can be your best self, enable them to be their best selves, so that people don't have to go through what your father went through.
Yeah. It's interesting, mate. I think, Chris, the thing that I picked up from all this is both you and your wife have had so much experience where a lot of people don't get to go through these types of things, like the roller coaster of becoming a doctor, and also your experience having to support her, and vice versa as well. Being an entrepreneur, you work long hours, like being away on shoots and being all over the place. I feel that it really reframes the amount of value that you put on your time. And throughout this entire conversation, we haven't really spoken much about money or wealth. And it seems to me that money and wealth to you is more than just the commodity itself, right? So I guess for yourself as a business owner and through this whole journey, obviously your wife's going to finalise her training over the next few years. So for both of you, once you've got to that point, what does financial freedom mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where money and finances is always sort of, it's lurking in the background. It's there in various respects. You know, like we're fairly good in the sense that we don't spend every dollar that we make, that we have some savings, but that we do enjoy nice holidays. So we felt we've found a fairly nice balance. But we also know that there's challenges ahead. There's going to be bigger expenses, and we have great desires and dreams and wants. And so how can we enable ourselves to get that? It's a bit of a murky area. It's a bit of an unknown. I mean, and when you're trained to be a doctor, when you're running a business, you do what you need to do, and there are elements of kind of hope for the best or plan. But there's how, if you get, and this is what I found, and I'm sure if you've gone through financial advice, some of the things that will be asked of you are challenging as well in terms of managing your budget, which is known as the B word.
Dirty B word.
Dirty B word in my household. You do what you need to do to enable yourselves to enjoy life. You don't want to be constantly tied to a spreadsheet.
Correct.
But at the same time, you don't want to suddenly go, 10 years from now, where's all the money? What happened? And that was partly what I saw growing up. Again, not in a bad way, but little things, and you remember that, and then you grow up with that, and then you go, how can I not experience that? I think that's the thing as kids, when we recognise, that's bad. How can I prevent that from happening? But at the same time, some people sabotage themselves and constantly get into those situations, and there's whole psychology around that. But in terms of the wealth, in terms of what we want, for us it's about for me it's about building the business, securing revenue streams, so that I can increase salaries, so I can have more to be able to then do more with it. I mean, the scary thing is, if you just go, I just want a nice house, that costs a lot of money.
That's
and so
Sydney in
2008. It's so. And when you say you want that, and then you want your kids to get a great education, you want to go on nice holidays, you want to provide for them, life's expensive.
It is.
So it's as I said, it's a bit of a grey area. It's I've kind of put it in a box in the to-do pile.
I think it's evolved from the $1 million question to the multi-million-dollar question, hasn't it? And it's tough. I think that we've gone through it, and back to that previous point, that our parents have gone through that idea of, you go to school, you go get educated around something, you go get a career, you work in the career your entire life until you're 60 or 65, and then you pull up stumps and go play bingo at the RSL, or work in the garden, or whatever it is, go to Hamilton Island once a year. And this generation has a different perspective on what it is to live. And I guess my motto has always been, you live for today and you plan for tomorrow. There has to be balance. You can't constantly sacrifice for this really romantic goal of retirement. Because as business owners, we're probably unlikely to retire. If I asked you, Chris, if you see yourself ever getting to a point where you don't ever work again, you never pick up a video camera again, you never don't produce a video, it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. And my wife's the same. She sees herself constantly pushing the field, researching, teaching, seeing patients, constantly seeing what, and that's our generation. And at the same time, our generation has grown up in this hugely consumer-driven world, whereas you got to have this, have it now, pay later. And so there's this interesting shift, and I've actually welcomed it in seeing the marketing of credit cards and financial products. There has been a bit of tightening on things to prevent things getting too out of hand, because if you don't know what you're doing, you can get into some real strife.
You can ruin your life.
You can, yeah.
You can ruin your life.
I've been very lucky in that, my parents have been able to instill a good financial literacy into me from a young age, and that was how I was able to then go into freelancing as a cinematographer, save enough money to get into the property market, which was huge, and it's helped us now. And I've been able to apply a lot of those skills in my business. But it's recognising there's a lot more to learn, there's a lot more going in there.
You mentioned something earlier about your freelancing, how you were in business for nearly 10 years, and you were trading your time for money.
And buying lots of camera gear.
Buying lots of camera gear.
Buying tons of camera gear.
I guess this is before I ask you the question, there's just a basic business concept that a lot of people really don't understand, right? So they think if they've got an ABN or if they've got a company that they're in business, right? But you've got two really far ends of the spectrums. You might have, let's say, a tradesman, or even someone who's in photography or in video, who is a sole trader, and they're charging an hourly rate, right? You essentially are trading your time for money. It's no different for working someone on a salary, and your little things are different, but essentially it's you're the business, the person, the one individual is the business. And at the opposite end of the spectrum, you have things like, the Commonwealth banks of the world, or these big businesses where the owners of the business itself have nothing to do with the business at all. It's a fully functioning entity without the business owners being involved at all, right? You mentioned that you were working as a consultant, you were working as a freelancer, but you knew that you couldn't keep trading time for money, and you wanted to change, and you wanted to build an actual business. What triggered that? What triggered to make you think, this is really good, but I know deep down, I know this isn't, I'm not really building an asset here. What made you change that mindset? Because I think that's a really important step in any business owner's life.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think it was just this lack of fulfillment. Well, sorry, it was a combination. Certain jobs I did, amazing, fantastic. You mentioned Hamilton Island before. It just triggered a memory. I was blessed to go to Hayman Island, so the luxury resort attached off Hamilton, for two shoots. Like, I was paid to be put out there.
So good.
I had to work, obviously, but
Still cool.
I'm on Hayman Island, Those jobs are great. Now, if I was able to get a freelancing run of just those sorts of jobs, I think eventually that you wouldn't have the contrast bias anymore. Suddenly, then that would get boring. But there wasn't enough of those great jobs, or the jobs that paid a lot, to balance out the ones that you just go, I just did this because it pays the bills, and I get through it kind of thing. Now, I had the luxury of being able to jump, being able to shift, to take my skills across, learn more skills. I think that was the other thing, actually. I think this actually probably better answers your question. It's a sense of self-development. And I really attest that core value to how my relationship with Jen, how our relationship as a couple has been, because we've both been constantly self-developing, and that's what keeps things fresh. That's how you can keep having conversations. You can encourage each other and push each other to do more, to do better. And so when you go, okay, I want to learn, I want to, and it's not just about, say, learning a new camera technique or new technology, but actually more skills. and actually going, you know what, I'd actually like to do more management of people rather than just managing myself. It's self growth, but also wanting better relationships with clients, and I couldn't actually do that in the role I was in before. So it did mean starting something more, changing the work that I do. But yeah, coming back to this element of, in certain respects, it didn't look like I was changing much, but going into it with with the vision and working out how to execute on that, and constantly reminding yourself of that. When you look back, it's night and day.
Yeah.
But it's when you look back, when you're in the trenches, just going, you got to pop your head up every now and then. Watch that you don't get shot, and keep going.
No mustard gas.
Yeah, avoid that one. So yeah, it's look, there are days when I gladly take the salary job, and I think it's actually interesting, because when you're working with clients with these great ideas, these great visions to tell these stories, you got to remind yourself that these people get a regular paycheck every fortnight. They need to get the project done under a certain budget because that's what's required of them. You don't know how much they're invested in the brand themselves. When you can work with people higher up, that's when you do. But it's that balance, because video is expensive, so not everyone can afford it. So you gotta, I'm running a business. You got to be talking to the right people. That's the big challenge, and that's where, especially with financial planners, in terms of, okay, how can we create some content to get them more quality prospects? They don't have a lot of money, and even if they did, even if they went, you know what, I've got $100,000, let's make this awesome commercial. I'd be like, God, what are we gonna do? What can we, if someone actually said, here's $100,000 to do something, it's so out of left field. I have to actually really think about it, and I think I wouldn't to do the right thing. It would not be blow it all on 100,000 on a video. It would be, well, that's a full blown marketing strategy. But not only that, that's actually that is an investment in yourself. Part of it is, let's be honest, I've got to try and get some of that 100K. I'm not going to give up all of it. But recognizing that if that individual's got 100K and they want to take their business to the next level, let's work out how we're going to do that, so that beyond the video, beyond the website, beyond whatever the tactics are, that you're actually communicating with the right people and you're providing the right service to them.
There's a holistic mission there, basically.
Holistic mission, that's the word.
Awesome. That's been really valuable insight, mate. I guess, given your entire journey and all the experience that you've had through business, through being a freelancer, obviously managing your relationship that you've given a really hard slog and still continuing to grow and evolve, what would be the best piece of advice that you can give to our listeners based on your journey?
The best piece of advice. It really comes back to that why. For me, I guess it depends on who I'm talking to. Specifically in terms of it's knowing why you've got the business that you have, and how you can push it further. So that, because once you know why you're in that business, how you can push it further, and how you're going to create the life that you dream of through that business, because it's a vehicle. It's a combination of being a vehicle and you've got to be passionate about it. So it's having passion and knowing why you're doing it. Everything else will line up. It'll still be a challenge. It'll still take time, but have that to remind yourself, because without that, you're just going to be wandering. Sure. I think so. Yeah, it's passion, and It's a concept called grit, actually. In terms of a takeaway, there's a fantastic book called Grit by Dr. Angela Duckworth. I can't think of the name, so it's just Grit. And what grit is defined as a combination of perseverance and passion. I believe I've got this right. I believe it's perseverance and I'm pretty sure it's passion. And she did a study on this whole concept of successful people. What is the concept of success? And Why is it that some people who have everything in life, they have the money, they have the family, they have the connections, why is it that they may not get there and some other people do? And it's this whole thing of having grit. If you have the persistence, perseverance, the passion to keep chipping at it, whatever it is, you will be the best in the world. As long as you believe in that dream. So it's a very good book, definitely worth checking out.
I think that's a fantastic lesson, and look, that's why we're all here, right? We're passionate about what we do, and we're persisting until we all make it. So, mate, we really appreciate you giving us some of your time. It's been,
Boys, that's great. Thank you.
It's been great to hear your stories
Thank you very
and
much.
hear about your journey. And best of luck for 2018, mate.
Thank you. And I know we'll all be smashing out here.
Sure we will.
Excellent stuff.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you.